Welcome to the $1 Million Outsourced Warehouse Playbook. Mary from Rakuten Super Logistics is joining today, along with myself, Chad Rubin from Skubana. And we've spent a lot of time discussing 3PL environment. I'm in a 3PL environment myself, and we put together and collaborated on this webinar to drop a ton of value. We do want this to be interactive. As you guys know, for those that have joined us in the past on webinars, we'd love this to be interactive. If you have questions, please put them into the chat box. We'll get to them as soon as we can. And we'll have also a question and answer at the end. Along with, we're going to have an amazing offer at the end that you're not going to want to miss. So to get right into it, since we're running a little bit late, Mary, do you mind sharing your experience?
Sure, no problem. So my name's Mary Marriott. I'm the VP of Operations at Rakuten Super Logistics. Rakuten, RSL is actually part of Rakuten Inc., which is the third largest internet company in the world and is based out of Japan. I've been with the company for 4 years, and we've got 9 facilities, adding 2 more this year, so we'll have 11 facilities nationwide.
That's awesome. A lot of facilities. And what do you like to do for fun?
I am an avid Denver Bronco fan. And so I am so excited that football season is only 2 months away.
Nice. Awesome. My name is Chad Rubin, guys. As you're seeing in the picture, I need to update my photo. Of course, I'm co-founder of Skubana and CEO, along with have been a first-generation Amazon seller I've been selling on Amazon and across many other channels for the past decade. And so thanks again for joining us. So today we're gonna collaborate a bit and talk about what life was like before having a 3PL and after a 3PL, using my own business, Crucial, as a case study. We're gonna talk about why you need a 3PL, how to choose a fulfillment provider, what are the things you need to be looking for. Of course, you can't talk about e-commerce without talking about Amazon as well. So how do you coexist and use a 3PL and using Amazon's fulfillment by Amazon services together? And then we'll have a lightning round at the end. Is that cool? You ready, Mary?
I'm ready. Sounds great.
Awesome. So these are actually real live photos from my pre-3PL days. I started off before even D2C was like the in thing to do, really back in 2008, fully incorporated in 2009. And this was my warehouse in Harlem. As you can see, it was a complete jungle. There was boxes everywhere, OSHA compliance issues in a ton of areas, and life looked a lot different back then. I was pre-diabetic, and my wife was like, pretty much towards the end of having a warehouse, she's like, look, it's either your warehouse or it's me. And of course, I'm still married to my wife, so you guys know the decision I made, which I moved into a 3PL environment. But we're going to talk about why I made those decisions today. And then, of course, how I went through the process of picking a 3PL. And Mary's going to bring her experience from running 3PLs and what she sees on the front lines of 3PLs as well. Mary, anything to add? I want this to be as interactive as possible. So is there anything I'm missing?
I think your pictures are profound in what a lot of entrepreneurs first start off. We all have ideas as entrepreneurs to start a business, and then it takes over our garage, and then we move to a warehouse. And then it gets to a point that it's just kind of suffocating your life. So I think that pictures are great.
And like people will notice I'm using USPS boxes as bins. And I'm using USPS thermal printer labels, or actually UPS thermal printer labels as the actual labels on the boxes, if you look very closely. And that's interesting because I had no SKUs, no concept of a SKU on any of my boxes.
Yep.
So.
Okay. That was sorry.
It's okay. So life before a 3PL really consisted of me managing the warehouse, which I found was one of my biggest weaknesses. I was not only managing a warehouse, but I was actually having to do the pick and pack process, unloading containers, sweating my butt off, unloading 20-foot, 40-foot high cube containers, managing the purchase order handling processes, dispatching, doing inventory cycle, like you name it, I was doing it in the warehouse. And I was we were like bursting from the seams. I was so overloaded, and I needed to literally unload these tasks. So you can see here, I'm spending like 36 hours of my time, not including just creating listings and doing all the other things that are necessary to run an everyday business. And certainly it wasn't my core competency to be doing these things. So to give you an idea, this is what the office is like now. We have a beautiful office, which has a ton of other intangibles, like actually recruiting the right people in the right seats to run the business. And just, it's changed my life. Again, I lost about maybe 50 or 60 pounds, but also I run now multiple businesses. So not just my e-commerce business, but as you know, co-founder of Skubana, I would never have been able to do this, to run Skubana, without actually outsourcing my 3PL. So it's opened up a whole world to me. It's been pretty fascinating, and it's been a really nice adventure and a journey. This is an example of a 3PL, of just how efficient it is. And so not only is it like 36 hours of time saved, but I'm also saving a ton of money. And a lot of people, and I think we'll cover this together with Mary, a lot of people are looking just at the dollars and cents that you save, and there's a lot of intangibles that you save, not just money, when you make the switch. And it's not just the pick and pack cost or the cost of the lease versus the cost of the pick and pack cost, but there's a ton of other costs that we're going to talk about that go into the mix that help you evaluate this decision.
Yeah, Chad, if I could weigh in, I thought you said something profound, that you talked about that you're able to grow, focus on growing your business and growing multiple businesses versus maintaining business. And I think that is something that we'll talk about throughout this webinar. Again, as entrepreneurs, to me, people don't start businesses to run a warehouse. We do, because that's our expertise, but mostly as entrepreneurs, that's not what I would imagine most of the listeners will start their business to do. But yet you get kind of sucked into that, which is what you experienced, and then you're able to pull yourself out of that and really leverage your time and your expertise.
For sure, exactly. And again, another intangible outside of just like doubling down on the business, I mean, you can choose where to spend your time. Maybe you want to work out more. Maybe you want to start another business. Maybe you want to spend more time with your family. Whatever you choose to do with your time, right, you can do once you've systemized the business. So this graph is interesting because when you first start out in a 3PL environment, perhaps sometimes the cost can be a lot more than running your in-house warehouse if you're just looking at it on a cost basis, especially if you start off small. But as you grow, you can actually renegotiate as you're doing more volume with the 3PL. And over time, right, the 3PL actually becomes less expensive than your own in-house warehouse. So there's an inverse cost structure that we call it when you're comparing a 3PL to your own warehouse. Because you're doing more volumes, right? You're also in this scalable space where you can expand and contract with, instead of locking in a 3-year lease or a 5-year lease that you're going to actually probably end up breaking because you need to move, which is what happened to me and many, many, many other Skubana clients. So this is just a very interesting graph to take a look at. Is like, if you're looking at your business today, just on a pick and pack level, it may not include all the other costs that are associated with it, but as you grow, especially, and we'll talk about this later, Mary, you get to use the joint collective shipping of your 3PL, right? And getting shipping costs that you wouldn't be able to get if you're actually going individually up to any of these shipping carriers.
What resonated with me on this slide also is just think of the cost you have to invest in infrastructure. So you have cash tied up in leases when you could have cash in your marketing. You could use your cash for more product selection or offerings. So it's another advantage in regards to utilizing a 3PL, that you don't have your actual cash tied up in an asset that maybe is not generating additional revenue for you.
Totally. And of course, Rakuten has massive investments in automation machinery.
Correct, we do. And we're actually, it's kind of a fun time for our company. We're rolling out robotics right now. So we're not only as an entrepreneur and a business owner, do you look at your own efficiencies and try to maximize those. We do too, because we're always looking for gains so that we can provide faster service for all of our clients.
So this is also a real graph. I had my team, once we got rid of the warehouse, we decided to take a look at returns and customer support emails. These are more intangibles that a lot of people just don't take a look at. I had and again, this was like 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 7 years ago, actually, maybe it was even 6 years ago, I think that's when we actually outsourced fully. But we had a massive amount of mistakes happening, 8 to 10% mistake level, which is unheard of. And that caused a whole slew of more jobs that were created internally, which was customer support emails. We would have never had those emails if we didn't have those returns happening and had a proper process in place. So our customer support emails dropped like 98% once we actually went into an outsourced environment. It's just another talking point to think about as you're actually looking to, and what is your return rate, and how many customer support emails do you get, and what is your time to resolution? All of these things you should be asking yourself and thinking, how can I improve these processes so I can double down on the things that are going to make us the most money?
Right, Chad, and it starts at the very beginning. It starts at getting the product out right, shipping the correct item. And a lot of times when you're doing it yourself, you and your team might have tribal knowledge. Kind of going back to your picture where you didn't have any SKUs, but you probably knew where a particular item, called XYZ is located in your warehouse. We call that tribal knowledge, and we try to avoid that. So if you're running your business on tribal knowledge, it actually puts a lot of pressure on you because you have to lead your team and how your setup is to ensure the accuracy of the product going out the door.
Yeah. You want to take this one, Mary?
Sure, no problem. So our marketing team did some research, and they came across a recent survey from Ecommerce Fuel that spoke with e-commerce owners that do 6 to 7 figures, and said, hey, what are the top 3 struggles that you have as a business owner? And the list came back with 6, but the top 3 were working with Amazon, having enough time, and scaling. And we thought, that actually really resonates with some of the things that we offer as a 3PL. And, I think a lot of people know that you pretty much have to do business with Amazon if you're going to be in the e-commerce world. I would say it's a really, really high % of our clients sell on Amazon, and then they also sell on their own platforms and other type of platforms. And so you've got to figure out how to do business with Amazon without it completely taking over your brand. Time. I think Chad just hit it right on the head talking about time, that really figure out where are you using your time. Your slide that you shared, Chad, where you actually had it broken down by hours. Like if you haven't done that already, I encourage people to do that, because you're going to find yourself spending a majority of your time on things that are not making you money. It's really maintaining a business that you've already achieved, and you're not outgrowing that, growing your business. So time is a real to crunch for business owners. And scalability. I think scaling, actually, there's a little bit of scariness to it, because it's exciting that your business is growing. So, you outgrow your current warehouse, or you're outgrowing your garage, or you're outgrowing you have 2 facilities, wherever you are in your business growth. But it's a big investment when you're signing a 3 to 5 year lease and you're getting into thousands of square footage, because it also puts pressure on you to maintain that level of business. So scalability, to me, is something that can create a high risk environment in your company.
Yeah, and you mentioned one thing that actually touched something very near and dear to my heart, which was outgrowing the garage. And I would say that I came from actually running my business almost like a garage environment, right? And I think a lot of sellers today are competing against competitors that are also operating in a garage environment. And I've thought a lot about this: is how do you compete once you have a 3PL, or your costs get and hit a certain level, and you're competing against people that are running a business out of their garage. And I think it's a very interesting thing to think about, because I struggle with that right now with tons of private label sellers coming in and just being direct FBA. Their shipments go direct to the garage. And you just have to actually do things better than your competitors and act smarter in many other ways, right? So yeah, you have a process, you've systemized this process, but now you have to think about what are ways you can be doing things better and more efficiently to essentially outbeat and win against the competition.
Yeah, and on paper, when you look at your finances, and if you're running your company, say out of a garage or a small warehouse, mm-hmm. it does. You don't have that extra cost at that time. But one of the things that I see, e-commerce merchants do is they get on Amazon and they also work on their marketing, and they really take off. how are you going to meet those SLAs? How are you going to meet that 1 day, 2 day SLA that ultimately customers want? End users, we're all end users. We want our packages very quickly when we order. We want that self-gratification. That's just how this industry is, and this is how definitely the US society is. And we have to deliver on that. And so by keeping the fulfillment piece in-house, you have to continue to perform on that high level. And as your business grows, sometimes it's hard to handle the growth and still have the space and the staff, frankly, to hit the expectations of your client.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just operating out of a barn or garage has a very short shelf life, and over time, that doesn't win, right? You need to replace that with a long-term strategy.
Agree. So some of the things that we felt that would help ease those three biggest obstacles, the Amazon balance, time, and scalability is, so like I said earlier, Amazon, they're here, they're the big guys in the market. And, I think a lot of people have some love-hate relationship with Amazon, love the volume, really don't like the way that they really confine, your business and take your brand away. So I think it's really important. Do not lose your brand. Your brand. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Really research and consider having multi-channel strategies so that your selling portfolio is diverse. I think it's, again, Amazon will be able to dictate your whole business if that's your only selling platform. Increasing productivity and efficiencies. As a business owner, you really know your product well, you know your clients well, and you know your business well. You are experts at those three things, but you're not experts at every single facet of e-commerce. You just can't be. It's very complex in certain areas. So, I suggest to really search out partners that are experts in the other areas and utilize them and outsource that. Chad has done his business model. He's recognized what his strengths are and what he's really, really great at. And then he's partnered with other people in the industry that provide those other services. And that way he gets to leverage his time. You don't have to be an expert at everything. It's pretty impossible to be that. So recognize what your strengths are and what you are an expert at, and go find partners that are experts at the other areas of your business. And then on the third one, increase flexibility in operations. I mean, this is a huge thing that Rakuten Super Logistics offers. By utilizing a 3PL, especially one that has multiple facilities, you gain basically a multiple facility network. And so as your business has ebb and flow, because there's busier times during the year, think of holiday. Everybody's usually pretty busy during holiday. Where are you going to put that inventory? Do you have a partner that can actually take on that extra inventory so you're stocked properly for holiday? Maybe summertime is your slow time. Wouldn't it be nice not to have to pay for a warehouse when you don't have the volume that you normally have throughout the year? So that's one of the flexibilities that partnering with the 3PL provides you, because you only are getting charged basically for fulfillment, and you're getting charged for any space your inventory takes, not a whole warehouse.
Mm-hmm. Completely agree. So, I mean, why a 3PL? We've talked a lot about this already, but yeah, you save time, you certainly save money. Even if you're doing a apples to apples comparison to the expenses that you have, I guarantee you there's tons of hidden expenses that you're not aware of. They're going to be like, oh yeah, right. Oh, that too. Okay, returns, customer support emails, issues. My warehouse employees, a lot of them used to put whiskey in their drinks in the morning. I swear, I can tell you some crazy warehouse stories. So saving time and money is one. Two, as you already pointed out, Mary, it's really expertise, right? Knowing that I didn't go to school to run a warehouse. It's not my core competency. It's not what identifies with me, or even actually allows me to wake up in the morning and turn off my alarm clock. So letting others that are doing it, and at that point, right, you treat your 3PL. You're not treating the 3PL as an employee anymore. You're actually the customer of the 3PL. And by the way, just for clarification purposes, someone asked, what's a 3PL? It's a third-party logistics company. It's an outsourced warehouse. So you don't have to run your own warehouse. You outsource that warehouse to what's called a 3PL, a third-party logistics company. Thanks, Farouk, for bringing that up.
Yeah, that's a great question. So a 3PL, basically what our clients do is that they send us their inventory, and their inventory is in our facilities. And then all of the orders get routed to us. If you're selling on Amazon, you're selling on eBay, you're selling on your own website, whatever selling platform that you are marketing on, your orders are then funneled to our system. And this is very traditional for any 3PL, what I'm explaining. Those orders come into our system, and then we actually pick, pack, and ship those out, using obviously the inventory in our facilities that you've provided. You still own the inventory. We do not take ownership of that, but we do. We are liable for it once it comes into our facility.
Totally. Scalability and flexibility. Well, the 3PL can scale and contract based on your business and business cycles. Certainly, someone like Rakuten Super Logistics is extremely flexible. One of the things actually you want to look for, and I think we'll get to this in the slide, is really looking for a 3PL that actually is flexible and can actually sort of embrace a lot of your demands on the fly. Because what we know in e-commerce, because it's so new still, even after Al Gore invented it in 1996, I'm just joking, it's still very new. And so things expire after 3 or 6 months. Sometimes they expire after 3 weeks of what you know. So you have to find somebody that actually can be flexible and work with you as the business is dynamic and is changing.
Absolutely. I think one of the core things I see on this slide is freedom to focus on your core business or life. And I've owned companies before I started working for Rakuten Super Logistics, and it can actually take over your life, and you lose that work-life balance. And I just think, again, like Chad said earlier in the webinar, really you need to decide where you want to, allocate your time and your focus. But as a business owner, it actually becomes almost like having a child. It takes that much attention and focus to run a business, and so you really want to have that freedom to work on multiple businesses and have some balance in your life. And by outsourcing certain parts of your business, I think that gives you that opportunity.
There was a question that came in, I want this to be interactive here. Terry said, what is the average cost per inventory dollar for a 3PL versus a well-run, owned, or leased warehouse?
Per inventory dollar. Okay.
I'm not exactly sure if I'm getting the question, because the cost, it depends on your lease, right? So if your lease...
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking of, is your total payout on the length of your lease. And then also it depends on the amount of SKUs you have. There's a lot of different variables on that question. What we see in a normal flow of a e-commerce client is that normally they start off small, and they are, like we've talked about, in the garage, a small warehouse. And then they identify, wow, this is not our wheelhouse, so we really need to source this out. Then that's when they come to us or another 3PL and figure out which one is the best fit for them. And then it gets to a point where you're doing an X amount of volume that sometimes it actually makes sense to bring it back in-house. And that's when, some clients are doing, 100,000 to 150,000 shipments a month, where they'll bring it back in and because they just figured out the processes that are best for them. That's kind of the ebb and flow that we see in e-commerce. So, I'm not quite sure exactly where you are in that cycle, but there are a lot of variables to determine the cost differences.
All right, we got a lot to cover, so I'm going to move on here.
Yep.
So how to choose a 3PL? Do you want to start with the service levels?
Sure. I think it's really important to identify exactly what you need in a 3PL. Do you need someone that can, do the pick, pack, and ship for you? Do they do returns? Are you going to be doing any type of B2B? I think you really need to spend time to find out what are your needs, and then find that 3PL that matches that. And it's not all about price. Sometimes 3PLs, they don't offer everything you need, and you may go because they have a cheaper price, and then in the end, you're not getting the full services. So spend some time on that piece. Chad, do you want to take over transparency? I know we had talked about your experience on that.
Yeah. So you need to have transparency about what's happening.
Absolutely. So we see transparency in two different ways. First off, we've got a software platform that clients can access to really see the status of their orders. So they want that transparency. Clients always want to see, hey, what's the tracking number? Did it report back to my shopping cart? Am I in compliance of the selling platforms that we're on? But then also on the billing side, they want transparency. And I think that's one of the struggles that we've heard in working with Amazon is there's not great transparency in the billing. And you're not actually sure what you're getting charged for. And it's hard to get some answers. And that's something that we've worked on to make sure that every client knows every single charge, and we provide the full details so they can see what those charges, add up to and what, why they were charged that. So I think the transparency is a big piece. It's something that we've been asked for, consistently, and have improved our billing because of that request. In talking with Amazon, again, this is not a webinar to talk bad about Amazon. You got to figure out how to do business with them. And so, you need to figure out, are you shipping Prime, and does your 3PL support that? Can your 3PL ship globally if you have an international client base? The integration piece, I think, is huge. You've got to make sure that the 3PL can take those orders and that it doesn't cause a lot of IT coding or development on your time. Find one that it's kind of an easy plug and play. And then, we've already covered scalability and flexibility. And on the pricing side, it's, really price is very important. I completely understand it. It affects the bottom line, but also you need to make sure that the pricing you're getting matches those service levels that you need. I'm just checking the chat's still there.
Sorry about that, guys.
Okay. I just want to say a shout out to Gary from PMD. I see you're online. Thank you for joining.
Can you hear me, Mary?
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Sorry about that. Yeah. As you guys know, I had to take a break to manage my warehouse. Thanks, Nick. So I don't know what happened to my internet. I guess an internet business can lose its internet once in a while. Yeah. So where do we leave off? We digress.
I think I talked about the integration technologies, just making sure that you're integrating with the 3PL, that it's a pretty easy plug and play, that it doesn't cost a lot of IT development, on your side, because there's a lot of different options out there.
Totally. And we'll get into that. I think the other thing you want to make sure is that your 3PL is thinking about the future. I think the Seller Fulfilled Prime program is still very nascent and early, but you want to think about where their head is around creating a 3PL, almost like a node system, so you actually don't have to do the pick and pack and prep and workflow to send it into Amazon directly. You can actually space it out specifically around the fact that Rakuten has like 8 warehouses, I believe you said, or 9, correct?
Yep, 9, soon to be 11.
So 11 warehouses where you can probably hit the United States, probably with 2-day shipping without having to pay 2-day shipping. I'm just planting that seed. You want to think about where the environment's going and go to where the puck is going, not to where the puck is.
You're exactly right, and we are, seller SFP, is hot on our list, and we do agree the same thing, that it is fairly new. We want to make sure our technology is right, but that's something we're currently working on for later this year, because we're inundated with requests on that. And we're actually testing some things right now to ensure that we could support it, going into end of Q3, into Q4. So we're really excited. We think it is a game changer, and we think that you do need to be able to support that to be a relevant 3PL.
Cool. And then the last one is pricing. A lot of people, I like to lead with pricing a lot of the times, and I think pricing is extremely important, and the economics do have to make sense. If you're comparing 3PL pricing, I would suggest creating a spreadsheet where you're literally looking at it pound for pound. Some 3PLs price in different ways. When maybe it could be hourly, it could be that they include other things or different things. Maybe they don't include a packing slip in the price. Really start digging into those questions so you can actually make sure you're looking at it on an apples to apples basis.
Great suggestion. We see that in sales as well.
Cool. You want to grab some of these?
Sure,
Mary?
That's no problem. One of the things that we're seeing from clients that maybe are a little bit more established or their business is ramping up quickly is inventory management. I think that's one of the tough things to do in e-commerce, is understanding when you're in multiple facilities, like what we offer, is where do I put my inventory? Where's the best place for it so that I can utilize the network like Chad had talked about on the shipping side. And so you really, if you're looking to be in a multiple facility 3PL, you really want to check that they offer cross-docking on your inventory. That's one easy way that you bring it into one hub, and then it's cross-docked to the other facilities for you. You really want full service soup to nuts, and we covered some of that in the previous slide. Really be thinking about what your business is going to look like, not necessarily what it looks like today, because you want to be able to have a 3PL support your growth. And then the other slide is, FBA, again, we're talking about Amazon. You want a 3PL that knows how to work with Amazon, because you're going to have to cross-dock some inventory to Amazon if you're using FBA, in addition to, B2C services and B2B.
Totally. I would say just the last thing, while we're talking about like the fact that you're going on to 11 locations, and someone did ask where the locations are located. One of the things that I like about having a location on the West Coast, first of all, I think a lot of people here should think about, if they're shipping things over a pound, try looking regionally where your items are actually going, right? Doing an export from all those different marketplaces or shopping carts of where you're shipping. What I found in my business was that majority of it was actually on the West Coast or the South. So if it's above a pound, it's regional, right? Zone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You obviously want to be in zone 1 or 2. It's the cheapest. And so there's a lot of efficiencies that can be gained, specifically around not only deliverability times, but also pricing, by having it located where your customers are. On top of that, if you're importing to the United States, it even makes more sense to have it somewhere on the West Coast or in the South, just because it's actually a shorter lead time.
Absolutely. We've actually positioned our warehouses to be around the ports. So we have locations in northern Nevada, in the Reno area, to be close to the Bay ports. We've got a couple of facilities down in the Las Vegas area to be close to Long Beach. We have Texas to be close to, I think it's the Houston port. We've got Atlanta to be close to that, actually Savannah, Charleston. There's a few in the South that we can, bring the product into. And then We've got facilities up in the Northeast for the Port of New Jersey. So you do want to look at a 3PL because Chad, I think it's a great point. You're importing that product, you're spending a substantial amount getting it in, and then you've got to look at the transport from the port to your facilities. So we've strategically placed our facilities in those areas, and we're adding another one to the East Coast, and we're adding one to the Midwest this year as well.
Cool. The last thing I think on my mind on this slide is really the FBA prep. So, or not just FBA prep, but essentially, let's just say you're an FBA only business today, an Amazon only centric business. But you have to think about when you invest in a 3PL, they almost are like a partner, right? And you want to think about, does that limit your growth? And if they're just an FBA facility, can you ever grow off Amazon at that point? Or let's just say a retailer wants to buy your product, but you've invested in a 3PL that's only a one-trick pony and only does B2C. That's a problem. So think in the future, 10 years down the line, what's going to happen? And you want to essentially make sure you're making adjustments into your business, projecting out into those 10 years.
Agreed. And we look at, as we open facilities, we always look at, okay, where's the density of the population? Where's our average orders going? And we actually do have a 3 to 5 year projection of where we are opening up facilities for things that we're seeing. So you do want a partner that has a growth strategy in place as well.
Yep. Cool. So one of the things that we talked about earlier was just like integration technologies. And so firstly, with Skubana, you can integrate to any 3PL anywhere, whether it's the US or international. And I have actually a warehouse in Ireland, and I have a warehouse in the United States, and you can actually geographically map where you want items to ship out of, and you can have that routing happen automatically inside of our system. So I wanted to give a shout out to Skubana. We make it so easy. We also have APIs. We have an API also with Rakuten through an app in our app store that connects directly into Rakuten Super Logistics. I know Rakuten has an API in their technology as well. So you want to think about integration technologies and think about how can you automate the business as much as possible and make your life easier. One of the other things is if you're using FBA, which is like an outsourced warehouse, right? You can actually get visibility into all your inventory for the first time ever in one screen. So actually, Skubana has all my international FBA warehouses, and I can see all my inventory across those warehouses, and I can actually see the inventory in my warehouse, in my outsourced warehouse, in my 3PL. And the other thing that Skubana does, if you look very closely, Skubana will actually algorithmically tell you when you're going to run out of stock and when you need to order more. So you never have to ask the question, when am I going to run out? When do I need to order more? What my min is? Skubana automatically does that for you. So again, it goes back to that integration technology, but even takes it one step further as an operation software so you actually can automate your business.
So strengths in numbers. We have some clients that, so potential clients, they'll come to us. They're doing some fulfillment in-house. They actually might only have an East Coast 3PL because that 3PL doesn't have nationwide presence, or vice versa. They might only have West Coast. And the feedback that we get is that using multiple 3PLs can be difficult at times because a lot of times you're using different platforms. But if you have a way to streamline that information, again, you're going to want that solution because you're not going to want to manage multiple platforms. But I do think that there needs to be a good plan put together that you can work with Amazon and you can work with a 3PL, and a 3PL can support your Amazon business. Any 3PL that doesn't work with Amazon, actually, I don't know of one. I think it's just a requirement in this industry that you have to figure out how to work with Amazon if you're in the 3PL world. So I think I saw a question, someone saying, hey, does a 3PL not work with, self-fulfill Prime? It is fairly new. And so yes, Amazon is a competitor of ours, but we also support Amazon. So you've got to figure out, you've got to find a 3PL that supports all of those aspects of your business.
Tiffany wrote in here saying that self-fulfill Prime on May 1st, USPS first. Not that I would probably assume that we're going to start seeing maybe more middlemen, right? Kind of like a DHL e-commerce, or those that are going to be taking those packages off your hands.
So do you have any insight into that? You broke a little bit. Let's see. Will no longer be available. Okay, I understand. I see the question Tiffany posted. You broke up a little bit. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, what we've learned about Seller Fulfill Prime is that there are restricted carriers that Amazon will allow, and they need to have some transparency that I think is difficult for some 3PLs. So, I think there are some other 3PLs that are actually doing fulfillment, but you are using Amazon shipping rates, which are not always advantageous.
All right. So this is actually a great slide. Someone that knows a lot about returns, who's actually on this call, Eitan Wiener from Tradeport. They know a lot about the return process with Amazon, and actually taught us a lot about returns. And we've actually factored that at Skubana into our profitability analysis to take into account all these return fees on the back end of Amazon. So a lot of sellers on Amazon, and Mary, we discussed this yesterday, like know what they make, but they don't know what they keep.
Correct.
And so Amazon has all these fees on the back end that they take specifically around returns and don't give you a lot of insight in terms of like what is your most return item or what those fees are. So really just knowing what your return fees, especially for an item before you get you're hit with all those returns, is extremely important. Do you have anything else to add on the return side?
Well, the return side, we talked a little bit about accuracy earlier in the webinar, and again, if you're looking at a 3PL and you're going to have them process your returns, you want to have some insight to their technology and exactly what steps do they take to ensure the accuracy going out the door. And with our technology, we actually have a two-part barcode check. So when our picker is actually picking the product, they're verifying it's the right barcode and it's the right product, and then on the QC pack, we do that same verification. And our goal is to ship out 100% accurate orders. So really have an idea of what your 3PL's technology is. Is it technology driven or is it paper driven? Is the product located? Is it located correctly? And there's a lot of things that you can ask your 3PL to reduce returns, because a majority of the time that you have returns is because they've received the wrong product. So if you can avoid that cost altogether, it'll really be beneficial, and obviously it'll improve your client's experience.
So this, again, goes back to just knowing what your most return item is. In our system, we actually track your most return item, and you can actually track why those returns are happening, so you can have more accountability in the software. We actually allow customers within Skubana to send out a prepaid return label, so that when you inject into the postage system, the customer only pays for it once it's injected into the postage system. There's a lot of return fraud that happens. But I think that you were pointing out to a very strong number here, which is really the highest number outside of other, which is received the wrong item. And this is what I was going into with my own warehouse, was that we were sending out the wrong items to our clients. So imagine if you had 23% of the items that were most returned actually no longer returned anymore because you were actually sending out the right item, what kind of impact that would have on the morale of your customer support team, but also how much money that would save you as well.
Yeah, and one other thing on returns, so sometimes returns can be an afterthought for a 3PL. It's valuable inventory. So let's say where the wrong product is sent out, you do want them to have an SLA in place that actually gets processes that return timely, so that inventory is available for you to sell again. And also, if your returns policy is that you issue a credit once the returns is processed, you want to still maintain that good customer experience and be able to get that verification the return is processed, so you can process that refund and keep your client happy.
Cool. And this just goes back to the returns, right? Looking at all the fees that Amazon takes. That's why I was talking about transparency with your 3PL, with your outsourced warehouse. You want to know what those fees are. And for Skubana, we spent a lot of time digging into all these different reports in the back end of Seller Central and Amazon to figure out not just the commission fees, but the return fee, the pick fee, the pack fee, the storage fee, the long-term storage fee, and your Amazon sponsored fees, along with your refund fees and your return fees and the return commission fee, all baked in to see what your true profit is on a SKU by SKU level. So just having transparency in any business is extremely important. Anything else, Mary, to add to that?
I completely agree with you.
Cool. So it looks like we're going to be coming to the conclusion. We're going to have some Q&A. If anybody has questions, they can put them into the chat. it looks like, Mary, you have a bonus offer here. Would love to hear more about it and what you can offer people that are tuning in today and even that get the replay.
Absolutely. One of the things that we offer potential clients and existing clients is a shipping analysis. We take your data, we don't need your cost, but what we show you is our benefit of our multi-facility network. And so if you do provide cost, we can actually do a cost analysis of what you're getting versus what we can offer you. If you're not comfortable with that, it also includes transit time. So you start to see the power of a multiple facility network. Basically piggybacking on what Chad said earlier is that you could actually provide 2-day service paying ground if you utilize a multiple facility network. And if you provide us 90 days worth of shipping data, we can let you see what that looks like in our network. If you have 2 facilities, 3 facilities, inventory in not all, the inventory doesn't have to be in all of our facilities. So we just provide that analysis for you to see if that's a benefit for you or not.
Great. And so they can reach out to you directly through marketing@rakutensl.com?
Exactly. And then the team will provide, we do have a template that we need the information, uploaded into, and then we can go forward and we'll do that analysis and provide the results.
Cool. Awesome. So you guys know where to check that out. We actually have a offer too, and I don't always do this. We're doing a discount on Skubana for those that are tuning in for new clients. All you have to do is email me directly at chad@skubana.com. I am ready with no apostrophe for 15% off for the lifetime of your account. It will expire after 24 hours after the replay goes up. But I want to thank everyone for joining. I want to thank Mary's team, and then we're going to just open it up to Q&A. So it looks like one came in from Bill, which was, are there any sales tax issues using a 3PL?
I think that what we hear is more about the nexus tax. And so we always recommend talking with your CPA in regards to working with us in states that maybe you don't have sales tax set up. But there can be a nexus tax effect that your CPA can clear that up for you.
Cool. And if you need any recommendations on companies that can give you some tax advice, I actually went through the nexus process. I actually did amnesty for certain states. I'm happy to share, personal share with anybody that's tuning in, as always. Nick wrote, when will you be ready for SFP?
Gosh, I wish yesterday. We are actually in the development stages right now, and we are optimistic that we're going to be rolling it out towards the end of Q3 so that we are in place to provide that service in Q4.
Cool. Now, just FYI, Skubana actually does support SFP inside of our system. Of course, you would have to actually be running your own warehouses, which is a little bit different than what we're talking about on today's call, right? Which is me saying that, hey, you should really look into systemizing your business and outsourcing. But we do support SFP, and we do have some warehouses that are using our system to run other people's businesses using Seller Fulfilled Prime as well, right? We've done the whole SFP by API integration. Jack here, how is Rakuten Super Logistics better than using FBA as a 3PL? I can answer that. Mary, you can take that.
Well, I only have one word, is flexibility. We offer flexibility to our clients that I think Amazon has a lot. They're a lot more rigid on their processes and any type of out-of-the-box requests.
Yeah, and pun intended, there actually is nothing out of the Amazon box. So like if you have your own shopping cart, you're going to get the Amazon box. Your customers are going to get the Amazon box, which of course takes people back, and you're going to get the Amazon pack and slip. All branded Amazon boxes, along with the fact that multi-channel fulfillment is actually really expensive. So Amazon kind of taxes you for selling off of their platform. I don't actually know a lot of very large or successful Amazon merchants or off Amazon merchants that are using Amazon as a 3PL to ship their goods. The key, and we talked about this on today's webinar, is to find B2B so that you kind of hit all three things. You have that kind of flexibility, like you mentioned, Mary, to actually run your business in a proper way without being taxed, or just being able to have the flexibility to run the business the way you want to run it.
Great.
Michael has a great question here. I have many bundled products, multiple products needing to be assembled. Does a 3PL package it all together? How do we give instructions on how to assemble?
It's a great question. What we found is that more and more clients are wanting to personalize bundles. And so most 3PLs, RSL does offer this, and I do think that there's other 3PLs out there. We call it assembly, just like you refer to it. And there's a couple of different ways we can assemble it on the pick level, and so that you actually have some flexibility of what those packages look like. I'm just imagining, let's say you sell something and it comes in 10 colors and you're selling a 3-pack. And so if I'm your customer, I get to pick my 3 colors. We would set that up on the pick level so you have that flexibility. Or we can actually bundle it prior to even picking it, so that we call it kitting. And so we would have a 3-pack already pre-kitted per your instructions. And the instructions actually go through our client service department.
Cool. On our side, what I do is, number one is anything that needs to be done in our business, we actually have an SOP, a standard operating procedure, that documents exactly how the process runs. I think it's a very important thing to have, because then you have a plug and play repeatable process that's pretty much bulletproof. And as you scale or grow, you're constantly customizing that SOP. It's a living, breathing document. The other thing that I do a lot of, and I'm sure a lot of others here on the call probably would do the same thing, is I do a lot of bundling and kitting. And so we'll have a 1-pack, let's just say it's a cell phone case, and we'll make a 2-pack, a 4-pack, an 8-pack, which is a bundle, and then we'll do a kit of 2 different items together. And we don't have them pre-assembled, but every time that order comes in through Skubana, Skubana knows the bundle breakdown items and essentially routes the correct items to the warehouse, so it knows exactly how many times to put their hand into the cookie jar. It's a great feature that we have. Nikhil, Chad, and Mary, have you ever tried yourself or worked with someone who wants to send custom handwritten notes to customers? It's something we're considering.
We have limited experience on this. We have had a couple of requests this year, and what we're looking at is that it would actually print it out. It wouldn't be our staff doing a handwrite. So I'm hoping I'm answering the question correctly. We don't have a solution for that in place, but again, we're always looking for things, because the more and more we look at the business in the industry, when you can offer personalized services, like a custom handwritten note, I think that it just gives you an edge.
Yeah, I actually think a good idea, Nikhil, would be, there's a software company out there called Handwritten with a Y, WRYTTEN, I believe. And essentially they have this automated service that will send out to your customers a handwritten note for a price, of course. I highly suggest you check it out. I think it's really, really interesting. Because you can essentially send out your product and then have a follow-up go up maybe 30 days after, and it's really, really impressive. And you can even be telling them, hey, do you mind leaving us a nice review after they've bought the product? So it's a follow-up item, and also it's just very heartfelt, because people are thinking that you're sitting there writing the thank you note personally.
What I was referring to, Chad, is if we actually dropped it in the package. That's what we're getting requested for.
Got it.
If I'm ordering something and you know how you can personalize a card, that information comes over to our system. We generate that card and then put it in the package, for the client. Yeah.
Awesome. Let's do one more question. We're about to wrap up here on time. Matt asked, does our RSL support Class 2 hazmat items? If so, what are the program limitations?
So hazmat is a really interesting topic, and there's a lot of restrictions. We do support Class 1 and 2. And what I'd recommend, Matt, is that you reach out to the email that you see on the bonus offer, and we'll get you to the right department. We actually have an hazmat expert to let you know what we're able to support and what we can't.
Great. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much, Mary and the Rakuten Super Logistics team. Thank you so much for collaborating on this with me. I think we're getting a lot of great feedback that was extremely helpful, and people loved it. If you have questions, you know where to find both Mary and myself. And I guess we're over and out. Thank you.
Thanks, Chad.
Thanks, everybody.